here. At least we have a beautiful Michigan sunny day. It's not too hot. I am Rebecca Fleury. I'm the city manager here for Battle Creek. And I'm going to kind of be your MC for a little bit this morning. First of all, let me just recognize behind me is Mayor Behnke. Also, I have Commissioner Sofia and Commissioner Kathy Wilson, as well as CEO and President of Battle Creek Unlimited, Sobieralski. We know that many of you reached out to the city yesterday, and we really didn't know exactly how we were going to respond until the stakeholder meeting this morning. We were incredibly honored to be invited by the Kellogg CEO, Steve Cahalan, to talk through about their announcement. So I'm just gonna have some brief talking points, and then I will open it up to your questions. What we know is exactly what you know. The Kellogg Company will be splitting themselves into 3 companies: Global Snacking, North America Cereal, and Plant Company. I think the most important news for us is they are not moving headquarters from Battle Creek to Chicago. Yes, the Global Snacking Company will be headquartered in Chicago with a dual campus in Battle Creek and in Chicago. But that's happening right now. For those of you who didn't know, they already have a presence in Chicago. They had acquired a building when they purchased the RX bar, and that isn't any different than we have right now presently. We're excited about North America Cereal and Plant being headquartered in Battle Creek. And we're excited that per the company, there will be no jobs lost. Again, we've learned that people can work anywhere, but Battle Creek is passionate about having as many employees remain in Battle Creek as possible. And the company has said that they're willing to work with us in that particular area. So I think those have been some of the big questions. For me personally, listening to Mr. Cahalan talk this morning, he felt that this is the best position he can move the Kellogg Company in. And he said to us this morning, he feels that this would be in the spirit of what Mr. Kellogg would do, knowing the economy that we have today and how each one of those 3 markets is working. We have committed to be his partner going forward with this. Whatever he needs, from his home community, from Kellogg's home community, we will be there in support. And of course, we want people to live here. So what we're going to do is what we're already doing. We're making sure that we have a talent pool for them to draw from. We're making sure that we have a variety of housing options. And while I'm not the expert, Joe is, we have a lot of great economic development things going on. We have a globally leading industrial park. We have the renovation of the McKinley Hotel right downtown that basically looks at headquarters. We have new restaurants. We have events that are thriving in Battle Creek, and we want to continue that. They want us to continue that. And, he did also say that there's a lot of work to be done. So from the detail perspective, I don't have those. That is going to have to come directly from the Kellogg Company. But they have committed to being open and transparent to us as a community. And we are believing in them, and we are supporting them in this. Whatever they can do to position themselves for growth, we want them to do. And we will do whatever we can to also be their partner in Battle Creek and in other areas. And with that, I will stop unless I miss anything that we want to do, and we will open it up to your questions.
What's your name again?
Rebecca Fleury, and I'm the city manager for the city of Battle Creek.
Did you know before you? Did
No.
you know before yesterday?
Before yesterday, no, I did not. We did not.
And how did it immediately hit you that after a century plus of this company calling Battle Creek its home altogether, holistically, how did it hit you initially when you heard the news after yesterday?
A lot of questions. And again, Battle Creek will always be home to Kellogg's. Whether they have a campus in Grand Rapids, whether they have a campus in Chicago, whether they have a campus in the UK, Battle Creek will always be its home. Mr. Kellogg was very clear in that. And he was pretty, I would say, forward thinking with also creating the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and its relationship with the company. So yes, we had lots of questions because we saw the headlines too. Kellogg's moving headquarters from Battle Creek to Chicago, but that is not true, and that is not what we believe, and that's not what we heard from the company.
Another follow-up is that although you did mention that there are going to be dual campuses for the snacking company, it's still 80% of the company's net sales from last year. And with its corporate headquarters, or with that company's headquarters, particularly in Chicago versus just fewer campus operations, what does this mean in terms of tax revenue or any revenue for the city, given that this is the major chunk of Kellogg's net sales last year, and there's going to be different structures moving forward with this?
You know, that question was asked this morning. I think there is a lot to learn about the tax implications, and I can't even begin to tell you what that looks like. I think my takeaway, and I don't want to speak for others, was this will position each one of the three companies to focus solely on that market, and they believe in all three areas they will grow. As the mayor stated at our commission meeting last night, Mr. Cahalan stated as well, the plant company is to be determined. You know, it is a new and emerging market, but it's an incredibly competitive market. And he used that word a lot, is competitive. They think this helps them be the best they can be from a competition perspective in each of the three areas. And the question about jobs, you know, he told us there would be 3 CEOs, 3 CFOs. And so what is that going to look like? They're still working through. And so again, still some work to be done, but they've agreed to be transparent and our partners in all of this.
Have you
Did they
talked to the
say what?
unions?
Sorry, did they say what Battle Creek can do to help in this process? Like what it needs to add?
Well, I was appreciative that they said keep doing what you're doing, but everybody is in a workforce pinch. The talent pools are always in question everywhere. Battle Creek, of course, is not Chicago or Austin, but we have a lot of quality of life and a culture of vitality that do fit the needs of talent, whether you're with family, whether you're young professional, single, whatever. So, you know, that's a challenge to us as community leaders in Battle Creek. What are we doing to keep that vibrancy going, to continue to grow our economy and support all the businesses in Battle Creek that are making changes, which they feel are in their best business interest to grow and compete in what you know is such a global market?
Do you know how many total employees Kellogg's has right now in the city?
I do not. That would be a question for the company.
Yeah, they're not disclosing that, which seems, I was really surprised they're not.
I can't answer that. I don't know why they wouldn't, but I don't have that number. Yes.
Mr. Cahalan implied yesterday, indicated that they may sell Plantco. Did he give you any assurance that part of their sale would include a provision to stay in Battle Creek? Or is that...
He did not. He said the same thing to us this morning. He did share that he felt if that were to happen, that why wouldn't you want to leave it in place if that makes sense for your business? But we're speculating. He was speculating, and you know he didn't get into that level of specifics. Is that fair?
I did think, Rebecca, you mentioned R&D stays here. That's what our
Yes. So one of the questions actually I asked this morning was what happens with the R&D facility? WKKI is just over there. And he said, you know, he talked about how all three companies will use R&D. That's incredibly important. And it may be that 2 companies rent space, or what that looks like. He called that as work to continue or work to be done. But he did state how important the WKKI facility was to their R&D efforts, and that it would remain here in Battle Creek.
What have discussions been like with the unions, if they were involved in any of the conversations since the news story broke yesterday?
I don't know the answer to that. That would be a Kellogg Company question. The city has not spoken to the unions.
That's what I was going to follow up.
No.
Do you think the split is partially due because people don't want to live in Battle Creek? They want those bigger opportunities in the bigger cities?
No, I don't believe that personally. No. And they did not indicate that was a reason at all. The indication that we have been given is all about putting each one of those in a position to compete and grow. And that's what we want for them.
Are they still using the headquarters building downtown? Will they continue to use that?
Yes, absolutely. They've just completed a multi-million-dollar improvement to that, and they're trying to make it an enticing place for people to work as well. And he talked about that investment and how well received it has been to their employees at all levels.
Will it still be referred to as corporate headquarters?
Well, remember, there will be 3 companies, each
Right.
headquartered differently. And somebody asked about the name, too, Kellogg's. They're still working on what that looks like. It is still headquarters for cereal and plant-based.
Talk a little bit about the economic development you guys have been doing to, retain people to stay here and live here in Battle Creek.
Great. You know
We see
what?
projects all over.
That's a great question for Joe Sobieralski, so I'll let him take that.
And Joe, if you could just say and spell your name for us.
Yeah, my name is Joe Sobieralski. I'm the president and CEO of Battle Creek Unlimited. My role is economic development for the city of Battle Creek. I represent an organization that's been around for nearly 50 years. Now, Battle Creek is synonymous with Kellogg, but you have to realize there's much more going on here besides Kellogg. We have Post as a presence here. Our organization, Battle Creek Unlimited, was spearheaded to actually diversify away from the cereal industry nearly 50 years ago. And what does that mean? We have the largest industrial park in the state of Michigan with over 85 companies. 25 are international, including Denso, Tier 1, Tier 2 auto suppliers, providing 13,000 jobs in this community beyond what Kellogg does. We've been doing a lot of investment downtown. We've got the Milton, the McCamley, and other investments going on downtown, nearing the $100 million mark. So we are moving forward with talent-based, place-based economic development. But what I can tell you is we may be talking about Battle Creek today. This is a Midwestern thing. This is a Michigan thing. We need to continue investing in place-based economic development for all of our communities because talent is the #1 driver on what companies are going to make decisions on.
Did they give you a heads up?
No.
And I guess
This is a publicly traded company, so there are things that they can't disclose. So everybody was made aware at the same time.
No, I get that. A press release went out at 7 a.m. yesterday morning. I guess my thought process is the citizens of Battle Creek might be wondering as they make these assurances, but didn't give anybody a heads up even 10 minutes ahead of time. Is there much faith? Do you guys have faith?
I think we had a great conversation today with company leadership about moving forward and having a dialogue with the company going forward, and I believe we'll get there.
Is it true that some of the company's recent growth, like the last 5-6 years, was happening in other Michigan cities, not here? Like
For the
Grand
company?
Rapids? Yeah.
So snacks is really where what they talked about today is really where the growth has been. Cereal has been kind of stagnant but growing, so they want to just free up the growth sectors to allow cereal to do what it does, to invest in cereal, to allow snacks to invest into snacks. And Mr. Kaline talked about the snack market internationally. But other than that,
I thought that maybe some years ago, like 5-6 years ago, they would open up offices like in Grand Rapids.
yeah, those are
Out of
all satellite kind of campuses, but they all feed into headquarters of Kellogg as a whole.
For you, Rebecca, and Mr. Mayor, in regards to the identity, as a couple of fellow journalists talked about with the history of the cereal company, moving forward, what does this mean for the city of Battle Creek in terms of its identity? Is it more towards a retrospective look back at the roots with a diversified portfolio moving forward, a strictly talking about all these different businesses, trying to keep Kellogg or whichever companies that were made, or a mixture of both? Like, what is the identity do you see?
I think that if that's very important because we are known for cereal, but there is so much more going on, and I think you put it very well that we are going to honor our history, our legacy here, but we're also not going to rest on our laurels, and we're going to continue to do economic development and diversify into future industries. And I think that's not a Battle Creek issue. That's not a Michigan issue. That's every community should be always continuing to look and invest for the next industries. And I think we do it well here.
Can you ask how many total employees Kellogg's has, but how many, in regards to the restructuring, the splitting up into the 3 companies, how many are affected in terms of them either moving or...
That's a company question.
There's not even a rough estimate of how many employees they've had all these years in the city.
We don't have any information on total employees. We just know that they weren't going to reduce the number of employees or move any employees. It will look the same as it does right today, except for the structure of the 3 companies.
But not even an estimate of how many they've had all these years in the city.
No, I mean, we have historical information because they've been in our top 10 employers, and you can get that on the city's website, but I couldn't tell you what the number is right off the top of my head.
I know they didn't tell you about the name Kellogg, but was there in your discussion any
yes. I mean, he talked about it being Kellogg Global Snacking, Kellogg Cereal, Kellogg Plant, but none of those decisions have been made. They're still working through those levels of details. But I got the sense that, again, he mentioned Mr. Kellogg several times, trying to honor what he did with the company and in any decision that he makes. So I believe, because we all know that Kellogg's is a globally known name. And so he recognized that, acknowledged it, and we'll see what happens.
I guess that with you guys said a lot of questions, uncertainties remaining, what are the next steps for the city of Battle Creek?
We will continue to be a community partner of Kellogg's, and I think Joe said it best too. They've agreed to continue dialogue so that we're talking about how can we help them with this talent, pinch on talent, workforce development. What does housing look like? What are they hearing from their employee base about housing needs, educational needs? They have continued to be willing to have those conversations so we can work together to, I would say, to keep Battle Creek on this high level of momentum.
What does this mean for events sponsored by Kellogg's, the Cereal Fest? A lot of people are asking about that. Does this jeopardize the future for that, or is Kellogg, with the dialogue you guys have been having since yesterday, is that still intact?
Yeah, actually that was asked. I saw no indication that they were going to change their philanthropic interests and commitments in communities. They mentioned the United Way. They didn't specifically mention Cereal Fest, but they certainly did mention their continuance in their philanthropic giving. They're leaders in food, so why wouldn't they continue to be part of food insecurity and those programs? And we heard a continued commitment in that area.
Is there anything you asked about?
I asked about the research and development component. I don't know. I think we've already discussed what there.
I asked how the two campuses will work together. And he pretty much articulated that currently they are working together in the footprints in Chicago with the RX Bar building at the corner of Kenzie and Grand Avenue. And then they have a couple satellite offices out in the western suburbs of Chicago, I think Naperville and Oak Park. He says we're not moving a single job to Chicago.
Those footprints, square footage in Chicago, anticipated to remain the same.
Right.
But,
He even admitted that they've downsized their footprint in Chicago.
But that's no different from their footprint in Michigan. So they have a big footprint in Battle Creek, but they have a big footprint in the Grand Rapids area as well.
Will the breakup affect how the Kellogg Foundation is funded? Will that stay intact?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think I'm the right person to answer that. And I think that was mentioned as work to be done. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be a continued major shareholder in each of the three companies? But that's for them to determine at a later time.
Was the company invited to the press conference today?
Was the what?
Was the
Foundation?
company invited here today? The company invited?
Yes. Yep. But they have their own stuff going on and been doing their best to do interviews all day yesterday, as you saw. I saw CNBC and all that stuff. And they're continuing to do that today. And remember, they have so many different time zones. They're trying to hit all of their employees as well. And Mr. Cahalan mentioned doing town halls at various times of the day to try to catch the time zones. And they have done that with all their employees.
Who exactly from the company was with you guys? Mr. Cahalan, who else?
Chris Boehner, Stacy Flatow. I think those were the main ones that I saw.
I asked about the tax revenue earlier, given the restructuring, how they would have the snacks company have their headquarters in Chicago. I didn't ask about tax revenue. How about general revenue? Is there a worst case scenario that you guys are bracing for if somehow, some way, this leads to a little bit of a reduction in revenue for the city, given this restructuring?
Well, I think we were bracing more for a global pandemic's impact on our revenue, our big main revenue sources. And to be honest, one of them that we thought would be the worst, local income tax, hasn't been that terrible. So no, it wouldn't be any different than what we've been bracing for with a global pandemic. Because again, he stated there's no jobs moving. Their footprints are still the same. WKKI, the headquarters, the manufacturing plant. So from us, very heavily reliant on property tax, income tax, and state shared revenue, I don't see a change that we haven't already been experiencing with the pandemic. Any other questions? I don't see any. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.